So a few more minutes then of practice, and there's James Pedersen, championship leader, making his way into the pit lane. So he's going to be starting his qualifying just behind Kuba Wozniak. And James Pedersen has been having a really, really fantastic season so far. 2 race wins, 2 fast laps as well. But he is coming under pressure from Jamie Tyler-Gooden. It is somewhat unfortunate because we have the likes of, so last season and the season before, we had 3 other drivers who were very quick, battling for the championship: Jack Stewart, Philip Babulal, and, oh my God, Nathan James. The 3 of them haven't been around this season, or not as much. So we could have been having, a 6-way battle for the championship, but it is, 3-4-way battle for the championship. Only a 3-way battle. Yeah, us commentators, we always want more. Well, so we've got Charlie Fenton in the pits. He is going to be vying for the Saudi heavyweight title, having missed out last year. Won it 2 seasons back. I'm not sure who that is in second, but in third, that is Harry Ashe in his black suit and black helmet. Absolutely. So that's Lee Schnitzler and Ian Riley into the pits. And then just behind is, so that's James Brown in the black suit, in the black helmet and red suit. And who is that in front of James? I don't recognise that suit. No, the red, white and black suit. So I have just had a little battery change because I think those batteries weren't working particularly well. So hopefully I sound a little bit louder now out on circuit. I have also got the YouTube stream up and running for reals this time, with a little camera showing inside the commentary box. And my terrible bed hair. We don't talk about that. You can if you want. So myself and Owen in the commentary booth here at Daytona Milton Keynes for round 5. Oh, I'm trying to think, which side is it? Oh, there you go. Hey, we're both in the shot now. Yeah. No. I think I have often seen 1 or 2 drivers forgetting what they have to do and going around the final corner and onto a new lap. I mean, the thing is, they are going slowly, so they're not really gaining anything. It's just a bit funny, really. Ethan Pritchard is going to be the final driver to come into the pit lane, which does make sense considering he had to have that kart swap, so wants to get as much time as possible into the kart, make sure that the engine gets up to temperature, make sure he's happy with this new kart as well. And once he comes into the pits, we will then be sending out our D-Maxes for their qualifying session, their one-shot qualifying session. And it does also mean that sometimes we see some, strange results, right? You see some drivers higher up than they would otherwise be if you look at the championships, and lower down, because it is so hard to be able to consistently put those lap times in for a Super Pole. All in one go. Yeah. And this is the biggest D-Max field we have had for, I think, all year, even including last year as well. So I think Super Pole is going to be very tough for that particular reason, because it's going to be very difficult to find space. You've got, about 20 karts nearly for a 1-minute lap. So every kart's going to be separated by about 3 seconds. And if the karts at the back of this train take too long to start their lap, they're almost going to be getting caught by the leaders finishing their, qualifying lap. So with that, our D-Maxes are now heading out onto circuit, being led by Kuba Wozniak, and then it is James Pedersen and Lee Schnitzler. So our first kind of battle that we'll see qualifying-wise is going to be those heavies between Kuba Wozniak and Lee Schnitzler. And then we're going to be seeing some of those lightweight times coming through. Well, actually, after Lee Schnitzler, you've got Ian Riley. So 3 of the championship protagonists in the D-Max heavyweight right at the front of the field. So they come into view through the hairpin of turn 7, and then they'll head down the hill towards turn 8, railway hairpin, or whatever you want to call it, really. And then they'll eventually pop up into view as they come over the hill. And I've just
here we go, just as you said that. Warming up his tyres, just breathing a little bit. Coming in towards the fast left hand there, and then in towards the tight right hand hairpin. Just coming round there, the lead car, just, I assume, biding his time. Doesn't want to push too hard because obviously you don't want to push too hard and then maybe make a mistake or going on to a lap as he comes through the fast left hand corner to start his lap. Nicely done. Doesn't seem to be anyone really making any mistakes. We haven't seen any spinners or any people going off really, which is good.
So then out of turn 4 and then down towards turn 5, which is one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. It's very long, it is a bit slippery, not a huge amount of grip, and you have to fiddle around with where you really want to be getting your apex. Tends to be an early apex and then slowly let the cart out. Some drivers prefer taking a bit of a tighter exit out of the corner. Then you've got the carousel into turn 7 and then down the hill towards turn 8 where you're braking downhill. So easy to outbrake yourself, run wide, and then you end up losing so much exit speed, so much momentum coming on the straight into turn 9. And that long left-hander, easy flat in the Sodis. In these D-Maxes, it's also flat, but you've got to flick the cart. You've got to get a little slide going in. Kuba Wozniak, very, very experienced drivers. One of the best drivers we have in a D-Max car, period. And through the final corner, he will come. And let's have a look at what those lap times are looking like. So 69.2 for Kuba Wozniak. James Pedersen 69.4. So it is heavies over the lights. James Brown misses out on pole by 72 thousandths of a second. James Pedersen is in 3rd. Lewis Barton jumps up into 4th and 2nd in the lightweight class. Ian Riley currently sitting in 5th. He's just been pipped by Justin Elliott, who takes 3rd in the heavyweight category. Jamie Tyler Gooden, though, over the line. What can he do? Wait for the times to update. Up to 3rd he goes with a 109.3, but it is Dom Balasaitis, a 108.8 by 0.3 of a second. He takes pole in the heavyweight class. Is there anything that Barry Morris and Ethan Pritchard can do as they round the final corners? Barry Morris in his first D-Max Super Championship round, only good enough for P7, and he is promptly pipped by Ethan Pritchard, who takes that 7th position. Yep.
3 tenths is a pretty impressive gap around a short circuit like this, so clearly showing he's got a bit of a class above the field then maybe for a race today.
Very, very good stuff from Dom Balasaitis, and critically, he has 2 heavyweights between himself and the next lightweight of Jamie Tyler Gooden, so
maybe use him as a roadblock.
Precisely. He's going to be getting his head down, trying to check out. We're now going to be getting our Sodis out on circuit, and I've just realised who that is in 2nd. It is championship leader Matthew Glazebrook. He's got a new suit. Very nice suit, Matthew. I like it. I'm pretty sure that's a new suit. So I always recognize Matthew because of the GoPro he has on his chin. It always just stands out a bit. I don't know if it goes on YouTube or if he just takes it home to analyze his footage and see where he could go better. I think mainly it's you sometimes get really nice battles, and it is very fun just to be able to go back and watch those battles. So very quickly then, our standings in the D-Max category. Dom Balasaitis on pole from Cooper Wozniak and James Brown. Both Wozniak and Brown are in the heavyweight class. Then we've got our lightweights again. Jamie Tyler Gooden, James Pedersen, Lewis Barton and Ethan Pritchard. And then comes Barry Morris and Sebastian Musica, the pair of them in that heavyweight category. And it was indeed Joseph Fletcher. I thought that was Joseph Fletcher out there. I thought it was this. It was indeed. Different helmet, though, for Joseph. He's in the D-Max lightweights. Then it comes Justin Elliott and Ian Riley, followed by Lee Schnitzler and Gareth Baldwin. Those are some surprise results. Lee Schnitzler and Gareth Baldwin, very, very quick drivers. Very surprising to see them down in 13th and 14th. Paul Studd, possibly. Paul Studd, Ashley Mason King completing the field. And that's what Super Pole does, right? It's you get that one lap. If you don't hook it up, it is so easy to make a mistake, especially down into something like turn 8, down into turn 10. If you make those mistakes, you can drop half a second, and then you're left is a lot with how close the field is. But the green flag is out, and the one flying lap for our Sodi drivers have now started with Charlie Fenton leading the field. Yeah, so Harry Escher, I thought he had a little weave on the run into turn 2, which is very surprising. I mean, it doesn't do anything; it just loses you time. Is the issue? So, I mean, the tires should be up. Yeah, you don't slide through turn 1, not in the Sodis. It's a very, very easy flat. You can use a bit of the curb. Bit of a shorter distance through turn 1. Turn 2 is where you really have to abuse the curb because you actually go into turn 2 flat out. And it might not look like that because it's a chicane, but it is so fast and you have to throw the kart through. But here comes Charlie Fenton then round the final couple of corners in through turn 11. Well, let's wait and see what those times are looking like. He's going to be setting the benchmark time of the field. And it is a 1:20.8 for Charlie Fenton. Let's see what Matthew Glazebrook can do as he comes over the line. It's a 1:20.0 for Matthew Glazebrook in the lightweight category. Here comes Harry Asher. He'll be hoping for at least second, maybe even pipping Matthew Glazebrook. And it is a 1:20.9. Takes a while sometimes for our laps to update. Aidan Miller puts in a 1:21.3, so about 0.5 off Charlie Fenton. Billy Moore, 21.1. Aidan Miller, 0.4 off, I believe, Hamish Easener, who's only a tenth shy of Charlie Fenton. Adam Green goes second with a 1:20.7. So Matthew Glazebrook absolutely flying out there. That's an incredibly quick time for Matthew Glazebrook. Luke Power takes provisional pole, 1:19.6, 0.4 of a second clear of Matthew Glazebrook, and I think only driver of the Sodis to make it into the 19s. Matthew Glazebrook. Yeah. What is it? Yeah, it's around 10 seconds between them. So your Sodi grid then is Luke Power on pole from Matthew Glazebrook and Adam Green. Then we have our first of the heavyweights, Charlie Fenton, followed by Harry Asher. Harry Asher in the lightweight. Hamish Easener in the heavies will be starting second in class. Then comes Billy Moore, Aidan Miller, Alexei Ivanov, Jay Venadi, Jake Ginger, and Harry Thrower. So I think both Jake Ginger and Harry Thrower didn't get the best of lap time, so they are going to be... Pardon? They were a couple of seconds off, and I know both Jake Ginger and Harry Thrower are usually a lot closer to the pace than that, so... Yeah, I might have just been out braking themselves into a corner. Maybe they caught traffic. who knows? But our D-Maxes have been released, so we're going to be gridding them all up or stopping them on the approach into turn 9. That's a long sweeping left hand in front of us.
I was qualifying right at the back when I came here. I was like, oh.
And then once they're stopped into turn 9, we'll grid them up on the entry into turn 10. We'll then get our 30s out, get them gridded up into turn 9 as well.
So we're starting different places in the different classes.
Yes, so you'll have your D-Max field in front, rolling start, and then just behind them, by like a 10-second gap, will then be the Sodi rolling start.
So we don't get in the way, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Class racing, you want to see chaos because the faster cars trying to overtake the slower cars.
Oh yeah, I'm all for getting the Sodis to start in front of the D-Maxes. That sounds like great fun.
That would be fun. That'd be chaos. It would be.
I don't think any of the drivers would want that.
Yeah. But it'd be fun. Get some overtaking going. Get your arms out. No blue flags.
No blue flags. I mean, that is one thing. There is no blue flags, and sometimes we do see incidents between D-Maxes and the four-strokes for that exact reason.
Is there any particular rules for overtaking, or is it just get through if you can?
Just overtake. Yeah.
I know some places say, oh, you have to be like this way alongside, you have to be this far in front, or whatever.
I mean, yeah, you do have to be alongside, but that's just racing rules, isn't it? You can't just yeet someone into the back end into a corner, bump and run. I like that. I like bump and run more than bump and pass. Yeah, bump and run.
That's what the Americans use. That's what NASCAR is.
Okay, then I'm not going to use it. I don't like American terms very much.
IndyCar and NASCAR, they're good series for entertainment. IndyCar definitely is good for racing.
Yeah. I mean, the way I like to look at it is if I want to watch racing, I'll watch racing. If I want to see entertainment, I'll go to the cinema. But I might be a unique specimen in that regard. So we can see our D-Maxes lining up. Dom Balasaitis will be on pole, and he really needs this for his championship. Dom, also, not won a round this season. He's got a fastest lap, but has not been able to win a race. Yeah. It is still the weekend, yeah. Oh, it's F1 today. Oh, yeah. Where are they at? Austria, right? Oh. No spoilers. No spoilers. Yeah. But I'm going to watch the race when I get home. And then watch the sprint afterwards. Even though I'll technically know what happens. But hey-ho. Okay. Lovely jubblies. Got something to kick my feet up and watch in a few hours' time. And so, rolling start. So they'll be going around slowly. Once they come over the start-finish line, then they will get going. So we're going to get the Sodis out. We're going to get them gridded up on the approach into turn 9. And then once everything's ready, we've made sure everyone's in the right starting orders, we can get underway. It means the D-Maxes, they have slightly colder tyres because they're stationary for a little bit longer. You have to be a little bit careful through the first few corners. But to be honest, once you've got through turn 4, your tyres are fine. I think a lot of time people kind of overplay how much heat they need to get into their tyres. If that car has not been out on circuit for ages, like 20 minutes, then yes, you probably need a lap or, some vigorous scrubbing for half a lap to get them up to temp. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you have to think of every excuse under the sun that you can get. But where they are stopped there for, the 5 or so minutes, they would have warmed up the tyres going around the circuit. They would have got some temperature in. They'll get a little bit of heat in going around. So by the time they go through the chicane in turn 4, those tyres will be fine.
So we might see some slipping and sliding for the first couple of corners. Obviously, the first corner is flat out. Will it be flat out after the restart?
So turn 1 is always very exciting.
Because there's a lot of cars close together.
Yeah.
And we're having more technical difficulties here.
I'm literally have my mouth on the microphone. I can't talk any louder than that.
So I think we're just seeing I think they're all gridding up at the back for the Sodis, and the United are already all lined up. So we'll be, I assume, getting rolling in the next minute or two.
So we are pretty much ready to get underway with our racing then today. And Dom Balasaitis, Kuba Wozniak on the front row of the grid in the D-Max heavyweight class. And in the Sodi class, it is Luke Power from Matthew Glazebrook. Luke Power has not won a round this season. The only driver to take a race winner away from Matthew Glazebrook was Adam Barras in Adam's only showing back in round 4 of the championship. And finally, Luke Power might be able to get that very, very elusive race win. It's been a very good championship so far from Matthew Glazebrook. He has been absolute quality this season. To be fair, he did lose a couple of championship rivals. Both Dom Balasaitis, Jamie Tyler Gooden were racing in the Sodies, or back when it was in the N35. So he's lost them as competitors. We haven't really seen Adam Barras racing. We haven't seen Charlie Smith hasn't been able to race, unfortunately, either. So there have been some championship contenders that he has lost, but Matthew has been absolutely untouchable this season.
He's lost his championship contenders, but you've got to play the cards you dealt. You can't really do it. You can't really.
Is it clearer now?
Field, but I suppose, as I said, you just got to play the cards you dealt. You can't slow down for the rest of the competition.
I think we should just put another 10 kilos of weight onto Matthew Glazebrook's cart, but Luke Power has had a target, and he's been, upping his pace with every round, getting closer and closer. Adam Green has been another driver that I've been particularly impressed with. Harry Asher as well, Junior Sprint League champion, making the step up from Junior Sprint League last season up into the lightweights against the adults. I say adults, I think Matthew's only about 17, 18, I don't know. Old teen, we'll go with. There you go. Adolescent. No, I prefer being able to say that Matthew Glazebrook's old. At least in some regard. So, the D-Max engine notes will start rising. The engines are on, and we are ready to get underway for round 5 of the championship. 40 minutes of racing action to come, and we can already see a little bit of weaving.
Side by side, they're all going through the rolling start. It's going to be entertaining to see who's going to come out on top into that fast first corner.
And turn 1 will be flat. Sometimes we see 3 abreast. Now, the question is, when does Dom Balasaitis pull the trigger? Sometimes we see drivers going early, and Dom Balasaitis has indeed already gone. That's given the opportunity for James Brown to go up the inside of Kuba Wozniak through turn 1, and they'll still be 2 abreast heading into the chicane. James Brown up into second, but that's Ethan Pritchard trying to go round the outside of 3. Taps into the tyre barriers. Someone has spun around, and we've got a couple of carts facing the wrong way. They'll be able to keep on going, but it is still Dom Balasaitis who leads from James Brown, Kuba Wozniak, James Bettison, and Jamie Tyler Gooden. Ethan Pritchard is the driver who has lost a lot as a result of those opening few corners. And now we turn our attention to the Sodies. Luke Power leads the field away, and it is a very good start for Luke Power as well, as I believe that is, I'm not sure who that is, going up the inside of Matthew Glazebrook into turn 2, but Glazebrook has dropped down from second into third.
Right, so the D-Max are coming round to the fast left-hander now, and who is in the lead? I don't know, I can't tell the helmet.
It is indeed still Dom Balasaitis ahead of James Brown. Just to correct myself, it was Adam Green who has made his way into second and behind Luke Power at the front of the Sodi category. But lap 1 then completed for our D-Maxes, and Dom Balasaitis will just be wanting to get his head down as quickly as possible before James Bettison and Jamie Tyler Gooden can make their way through the heavyweights of Kuba Wozniak and James Brown. I don't think there are sectors. We can make up sectors, though.
Yeah. So the first sector is up until the hairpin, turn 4 hairpin.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But look at the gap already as Matthew Glazebrook's going to go up the inside of Adam Green into turn 10. That's going to give an opportunity for Harry Asher now alongside into the final corner. Joe Fletcher might also be trying to follow through. They're 3 abreast on the exit. Matthew Glazebrook all the way up on the curb, and it is a drag down towards a turn 1 side by side with Charlie Fenton, I believe, as they go neck and neck into turn 2, and Fenton has made the move work and is up to P3 overall.
Just allowed the leaders to pull away there because of all the chaos that was going on behind them, all those side-by-side battles. And now the Sodies, I think, are coming through now.
Yeah, and for some reason I said Joseph Fletcher in that Sodi class. He's actually the here making his way through the final corners. We have a battle, Sebastian Musica being passed by Lee Schnitzler as Ian Riley had to think about going up the inside into turn 2. Backs out of the move, slots in behind. Ethan Pritchard is on an absolute charge. He's made his way past all 3 of those heavyweights. Now trying to hunt down Barry Morris. And then the rest of the field up ahead. Who is that in front of Barry Morris? Oh, it's Lewis Barton. So I think Lewis Barton has a slightly different suit to what he had before, which is why I couldn't quite identify him. Well, what a drive this is right now from Luke Power. He is absolutely checked out at the front as Matthew Glazebrook is going up the inside of Adam Green. That means he has the outside. He looks for the switchback, but he just gets out of sorts. Means he can't make the move work. As further behind, that is Hamish Easener, I believe. Sorry, that's not Hamish Easener. That's Aidan Miller trying to keep a couple of carts behind him. I'll have a look at who those carts are. And also, you can now see that the D-Maxes are closing in. As we have a spinner through turn 10, so they can't get their car out of the tyre barriers. They'll get pushed out and then continue. So Dom Balasaitis is going to have to try to navigate his way through these Sodis. He's going up the inside of 4 of them through turn 5. Well, that's one way to overtake the Sodi field. And then you can see Cooper Wozniak trying to fight his way through with James Pedersen directly behind him. They'll pop back into view as they head into turn 7. And James Pedersen and Jamie Tyler Gooden, I think, have been able to gain a position on either Cooper Wozniak or James Brown. We'll see more clearly when they head through turns 9 and 10. So here comes Luke Power then. Oh, Cooper Wozniak up the inside of 2. But he tags James Pedersen in the process. Wozniak just wanted to get the Sodis, but he goes in too hot. And that is going to be a bump and pass penalty unless he lifts off and yields the position back to James Pedersen. So I'm just checking. Cooper Wozniak has not yielded.
What's the penalty for that?
That's probably going to be...
5 seconds, 10 seconds?
It's either going to be +1 position or +3.
Oh, so it's position penalty.
Yeah. We'll see. It just depends on whether Wozniak lets Pedersen through. If he lets Pedersen through, might get away with it. If he doesn't, that's a definite penalty. Yeah, well, that's why time penalty is useless, isn't it? Otherwise, you get Lewis Hamilton Silverstone last year. Or was it 2 years ago? Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, because you have to punish the incident rather than the outcome. Yes, Verstappen retired, and yes, he got sent to hospital. But a lot of people think he should have been disqualified because Verstappen went to hospital.
No, that's not how it works. Yeah. But it's very straightforward just to have bump and pass, 1 intentional bump and pass, +3. Well, Ethan Pritchard on an absolute charge. Both himself and Lee Schnitzler have been able to pass Barry Morris, as has Sebastian Musica, who has been my kind of driver of the year, or like most improved driver of the year. And Sebastian Musica is just going from height to new height. Dom Balasaitis, though, leading less than 2 seconds clear of James Brown, with Jamie Tyler Gooden behind him, followed by James Pedersen. Fast lap of the race does go the way of Dom Balasaitis, currently a 1:08.5. Well, we'll see when they come across the line, because them having to carve their way through all of the Sodis is... Exactly. And this is one of the big skills when it comes to being able to race in the D-Max, is how well can you get through the field. As Dom Balasaitis will have a little look over his shoulder. He won't be too worried about James Brown. He will be more worried, though, about Jamie Tyler Gooden, as Cooper Wozniak is now behind James Pedersen. Now, I don't know if Pedersen overtook Wozniak or if Wozniak allowed Pedersen through, but he does have Lewis Barton directly behind him, and I haven't been informed about a penalty for Wozniak yet, so I'm going to assume, tentatively, that he has given the position back.
Your point earlier about the faster cars having to get past the slow cars, that's more of a skill. Do you not think stay in front of the cars in your class?
Yeah, so I think there is a bit of skill with Sodis in that kind of knowing when the D-Maxes are coming through, but I think the issue is when you're in the Sodi class, you don't really have much control over, when you get caught up by the D-Maxes. Whereas if you're in the D-Maxes, you can time those overtakes. You can, be a little bit slow in a previous corner so that you catch up to the Sodis on corner exit rather than mid-corner. Yeah. And that all does come into play. So the gap is 2.3 seconds between Balasaitis and Brown last time round. Balasaitis pulling 3/10 to James Brown, 2/10 to Jamie Tyler Gooden. This time over the line then for Dom Balasaitis. A 1:08.4, new fast lap of the race. Possibly. I'm not sure. Jamie Tyler Gooden, 1:08.5. So only dropping a 10th to Dom Balasaitis. 1:08.9 for James Bettison. And 1:08.7 for James Brown. So I think we're going to have a little battle between James Brown and Jamie Tyler Gooden in the upcoming few minutes. Second place. Also, just having a little look at Luke Power and Matthew Glazebrook, you can kind of see Luke Power exiting turn 1 up towards turn 2. Matthew Glazebrook exiting turn 1. He does have Adam Green not too far behind. Luke Power 1:19.6, Glazebrook 19.4, Adam Green 19.9. So Glazebrook is slowly closing in on to Luke Power.
I think he's going to be shocked that he's not in the lead, considering how much he's been in the lead before in the previous races.
Possibly. He would have known that Luke Power got a very good qualifying session, and then the opening lap or so, I think. Maybe. You can see that Jamie Tyler Gooden is a lot closer to James Brown this time round. Yep.
So we're just seeing some of the cars come down the main straight in towards turn 1. They're all kind of in a close group. And we are seeing it's pretty spare. The cars have kind of spread out though. You're not seeing. The receiver's not on.
Me. Keep going.
Okay, keep talking.
Yep. All right.
Sorry for those technical difficulties. So we can see the cars just going round. I think is Dom still in the lead?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
He is still in the lead. So the gap is currently. Let me just have a look. The gap is currently just. I can't see his times. It's really bad for me. So he's currently last lap was a 68.314. So he's currently lapping about 0.6 of a second quicker than the car behind James Brown. We'll possibly see a battle in the coming minutes. So we can see there is 2 cars going nearly side by side into the long right-hander.
It's muted. So Dom Balasaitis then leading the way from James Brown, with Jamie Tyler Gooden a few tenths further behind, as they'll be making their way out of turn 8 and down towards turn 9. There is Dom Balasaitis, instantly sends one up the inside into turn 10. And then here is Jamie Tyler Gooden, just behind James Brown, as then comes James Bettison, Kuba Wozniak, and Lewis Barton a few seconds further behind. Just going to try to keep an eye on this gap at the front end of the Sodi field between Luke Power and Matthew Glazebrook. Last time around, Matthew Glazebrook taking 4/10 out of Luke Power. We do have a way to go in this race, half an hour, so there is plenty of time for Matthew Glazebrook to be able to hunt down his deficit to Luke Power. I just want to see if I can catch where they are on circuit roughly. Luke Power usually very easy to spot with his very nicely coloured helmet. There is Luke Power making his way into the long left-hander of turn 9. And there is Matthew Glazebrook a few seconds further behind. And then it's a rather big gap to Adam Green. So Matthew Glazebrook has really got the hurry up, and he has his target in his sights, and he is starting to reel him in. Meanwhile, Jamie Tardy-Gooden trying to close in onto James Brown. He's now just about a kart length behind Owen.
Yeah, he is. So we're just looking at the carts coming through. There are a couple of battles going on, but mostly the carts have spread out, which I'm a bit surprised. There was no overtake just into the hairpin there. Not sure who that was, but we're currently seeing, has Dom pulled out a bit of a lead? I think he has. He actually, James Brown has improved his times quite considerably from the last time we looked at him. He's gone from 68.9s to 68.4s, so that's a 5/10 improvement. Maybe he's just got a bit more confidence in the car. Obviously, when you get further into a race, you get a bit more adjusted to how the car's doing. Is it oversteering, is it understeering, and you can adapt accordingly. James Tardy-Gooden is currently going faster than him by about a tenth a lap, but I assume that won't be enough to really make a pass if he's not going considerably faster. In fourth is still James Vetterson, and then Hugo Wozniak, Lewis Barton in sixth, and then Ethan Pritchard, Lee Schneider, and Barry Morris. And then Sebastian Musica round out the top 10 for the faster carts. And then coming in towards the slower carts, we can see who is in the lead. Luke Power's in the lead, and he's currently actually going slower than the car behind him on the previous lap.
Yeah.
About 2.5 tenths behind, going in as we just see how the type of drivers are adapting really to these, because we are further into the race. You kind of worn off your rustiness. You're into a stage where you just want to be in flow state really. You want to be pushing, but not pushing too hard to the point where you crash, obviously.
Yeah, so our D-Max is then leading the field with Dom Balasatis spearheading them through. Meanwhile, Luke Power leading in the Sodis, but is being reeled in by Matthew Glazebrook. It doesn't need to be a huge amount, but it just needs to be a visible amount, a noticeable amount. And that is exactly what Matthew Glazebrook was doing, at least until that last lap, where he then lost about 0.05 of a second, so not a big issue for him. Dom Balasatis, I think, I remember seeing on Instagram, I think Jamie Tardy-Gooden saying that he was able to reel in Dom over the course of the race and eventually get the race win after a good scrap with Dom. This time round, doesn't look like that's going to happen, and Dom Balasatis is on for his first race win of the season. And let's take a look then at what the lap times are looking like for Luke Power. Here he comes then through the final corner. He has been overtaken by a couple of the D-Max karts. So Luke Power then over the line, a 119.4. Meanwhile, Matthew Glazebrook, a 119.7. So dropping 0.3 back on that particular occasion, which I'm sure Matthew Glazebrook won't be too happy about. 26 minutes left. Still plenty of time remaining in this race.
Yeah, there is plenty of time remaining, so the drivers won't be wanting to do any rash moves, because obviously if you go for a move and you spin out or you crash into someone, you're obviously going to get a penalty, which you're going to spin yourself around and lose tons of time, which is not what you want to do. Currently still in the lead is Dom Balasatis. He's still pulling out a decent gap. James Brown is back to his slower times. He was setting 68.4s, he's now setting 68.
He was doing 69.4s.
He was doing 69.4s, my bad. So he is going faster. That was completely my fault there. So he is going about 6 times faster than he was the previous laps that we were doing. So yeah, I assume the drivers will just be trying to get in the flow, because obviously we haven't seen much on-track overtaking, much side-by-side action. I assume they just found their limits and they're just trying to stick as close as they possibly can to those limits without going over them. So yeah, we can see how Jamie Tardy-Gooden is a little bit quicker last lap than James Brown, just 0.3 or so. Obviously, you want to be as quick as you can without crashing. It's just finding that limit and staying right on the limit. Most of the best drivers can stay right on that limit, and you just see them dominate. You see them pull out gaps like we've seen with Dom today.
.108.2 last time around for Dom Balasatis, getting very close actually to making it into the 107s at this rate. Fastest lap in the Sodi category is sitting with Matthew Glazebrook, a 109.1, just a tenth quicker than Luke Power. So there goes Dom Balasatis through turn 1, which means that Luke Power will be heading into turn 9 shortly. So it should be appearing over the crest. I think. Maybe he's hidden somewhere else around the circuit. Did I just see some drops of rain? Maybe. There's Luke Power making his way through turn 9, and there is Matthew Glazebrook in the white helmet, making his way through turn 9 now and into turn 10. It is starting to get a little bit more overcast over the circuit, but I don't think there is any rain just yet. I think my mind might be playing some tricks on me.
Let's just make sure that rain isn't a bit of sweat on your forehead like it was George in Spain. But yeah, so the drivers will have to adapt. If it is going to start pouring down with rain, or at least trickling down with rain, they'll have to adapt their styles. You have to be a bit smoother, brake a little bit earlier, turn in a little bit early, just be a bit smoother. You want to ease the car into the corners rather than chuck them in as much. Obviously, you have to give it a bit of give, otherwise you're just not going to make the corner. But you just want to be chilling. You don't want to be pushing too hard in the rain. You don't want to be taking the same lines you were taking in the dry. Obviously, we haven't got to that period yet where they're going to be changing much about their driving. Just being cautious. Don't let that extra brain capacity though make you lose or crash out. Because if you sat concentrating like, oh, I've got to make sure I don't slide off on this wet patch, you're probably going to slide off on that wet patch because you're thinking about it too much. It's all about the concentration. It's all about just keeping yourself right on that limit.
I'd say, had the displeasure of driving in the wet, and it is horrible. Turn 10 and turn 2, very, very slippery. It's practically like you're skating around on ice. Turn 5 and turn 6 are absolutely glorious, though, in the wet. There is a lot of grip, a lot of fun lines that you can take. But yeah, wet weather driving just rewards those who can really push the car the most and have a fiddle around with the power. You have to be on the absolute limit the entire time when it's raining. There's no other way around it. And if you aren't pushing to the limit, if your back end isn't on the verge of spinning every single corner, you're going to be lapping a second a lap slower. It's just how wet weather karting goes, really. Jamie Tarley-Gooden has been able to find a way through on James Brown, so he's up to second overall. But James Brown is looking at picking up another heavyweight class win. I say another heavyweight class win. He actually hasn't won a round this season. He's leading the championship, has not won a single round. 3 second places and 1 third place so far.
That's interesting to see that he's not won a round. I don't think I've known of a single-seater or a motorsport championship where a driver has won a championship without winning a single race. Obviously, drivers have got close to that. I know Mike Hawthorne and Keke Rosberg in their title-winning Formula One seasons only got 1 race win, which of course is a bit dramatic. Of course, Mike Hawthorne in that 1958 season, he raced and he was second to Sterling Moss most of the season, but he only won the title because Moss was very gentlemanly and decided to not to. Hawthorne was originally disqualified from the Portuguese Grand Prix that year, and Moss was like, "Don't disqualify him," because he apparently the thing that the steward said he didn't actually happen. So he was very sportsmanly and gave him back, and he lost the championship because of that sportsmanly act.
There you go. Back when motor racing was sportsmanlike and people didn't hate each other everywhere.
Yeah, Sterling Moss, he was a proper gentleman. He obviously died in 2020, sadly, but he was the last of a proper remaining road racer. But he does have some questionable opinions. He said that he liked Formula One better when it was less safe.
Yeah, I can see why. I think a lot of the old school drivers have said that. Also, don't forget, Sterling Moss, only driver to win both Formula One and MotoGP, if I'm not mistaken. John Surtees. I always get those two mixed up.
He won 7 500cc championships. I'm not too clued up on bike racing, but he won 7 titles in motorbike racing and then won the F1 title in 1964. Sterling Moss is the driver who's got the most F1 race wins without a world championship. He had 16 wins and didn't get a single championship. He finished second 4 times.
It's practically Fernando Alonso skipping the first 2 titles that he got, isn't it?
Fernando Alonso, except he's not Fernando Alonso.
Not Spanish. Matthew Glazebrook still trying to hunt down Luke Power, but the gap has been staying, I want to say, relatively constant between them. So we can see where Luke Power is, and we can try to get a visual gauge. So Luke Power entering turn 5 as Matthew Glazebrook has already exited turn 4. So that's the kind of gap between the pair of them. It's sitting at about 3 or so seconds. Don Malasatis, though, still leading 8.5 seconds clear of Jamie Tylee Gooden. And James Pedersen is looking at taking third place in the D-Max lightweight class. And with a second place for Jamie Tylee Gooden, that would bring his championship deficit down from 3 points down to 2 points. And once you include drop scores as well, because Jamie has a lower drop score, he's actually going to be leading the championship by actually nothing. It's going to be tied.
Ooh, a tie. That's going to be interesting. Obviously, ties mean that they're equal on points, obviously. Don't know why I said that. Yeah, it's entertaining to see how the title battles fold out. You've seen it multiple times. I'm going to keep waffling about F1 history because it's the thing I'm confident with. There's been a couple of times in F1 history where the drivers have been tied for the title lead. Obviously, in 1974, you saw Clay-Regazzoni and who was it? Emerson Fittipaldi going to the final race of the season equal on points. You also saw that in 2021 with Verstappen and Hamilton.
Yes, we have had a few incidents of it in Formula One. Don't know if we had it last year. I think it got very close in the Saudi lightweight class between Charlie Smith and Jamie Tylee Gooden. So that was almost tied on points at the end. I can't remember if it went to count back, but
Have there been any half-point races that you've seen? Any races that have stopped due to like any severe weather or a crash or something?
what, in Formula One?
Or in this?
Oh no, if it stops early, you just award all the points for whatever the position is. Yeah. No.
Because of course in F1, if the race doesn't complete 75% distance, you get half points. That's happened, I think, 5 or 6 times in F1 history. From memory, we had, of course, the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, which everyone loved. The super wet race in Belgium, but only lasted like 1 or 2 laps. You have the 1991 Australian Grand Prix at Adelaide, where the race lasted 14 minutes because it was just pouring down with rain and everyone crashed. And there was a 1975 Spanish Grand Prix where Jochen Mass won his only F1 race, and Leila Lombardi became the only woman to score a point in F1 history.
Okay. I think there was also one in Malaysia in like 2011 or something. But
2009, yeah, you're right. Well done. You know more about F1 than me.
I highly doubt it. It's just something that I sometimes remember. Anyway, back to the racing at hand. Dom Balasaitis leading by nearly 10 seconds now over Jamie Tylee Gooden, and Dom Balasaitis looking at picking up a clean sweep. Pole, race win, and a fastest lap as well. The same might be being said for Luke Power if he can find another 1/10 of a second, because currently the fastest point is going to be going the way of Matthew Glazebrook. Glazebrook currently leading the championship by 7 points, but that championship lead will be diminishing after today's results.
Yeah, so the drivers are just currently, again, there's, as I said earlier, the drivers have kind of spaced out. There is 2 drivers battling, I think, into the fast left-hander there. Can't know who they are.
That very good spot. That's Lewis Barton and Ethan Pritchard. These two raced against each other back in the 4-stroke category when it was N35s. Now the Saudis. And Ethan Pritchard has closed in onto Lewis Barton. Remember, Ethan Pritchard was part of the carnage that occurred in lap 1. It saw him drop right down the order. Now he's battling for P6 overall, which would be P4 in the lightweight class. And Ethan Pritchard currently sitting 3rd in the championship. He's got Dom Balasaitis just 1 point behind him, so is going to be falling behind Dom after this round is completed. Both of them, though, have a 0-point drop score because they missed a round apiece. So they are essentially just 1 point between them.
Yeah, obviously, with that 0-point score, with that where they didn't turn up, I assume that they'll be maybe on the back foot in the later rounds of the season because they can't make a mistake in those later rounds. Obviously, when you do have a drop score in hand, you can maybe push it a bit further. You can push the limits a bit further because you're like, actually, if I do make a mistake, I'm going to be able to drop the score. But if you've already had that at this point in the season, then it's a bit, you can't make those same mistakes, the same risks.
To be honest, you drive the same, right? You still drive 110% the entire way through. It's just that you get races where sometimes, a bit of misfortune falls your way, you make a mistake, an oversight, whatever it is, and you get some of those drop scores. For Dom Balasaitis, he's had a couple of 5th place finishes, which, again, those would usually be his drop scores. You look at, the likes of James Pedersen, his drop score is, James Pedersen had this really bad result where he came 2nd. So that's his drop score. Similar kind of thing for Jamie Tylee Gooden. He had a 4th place finish. That's his drop score. So the rest of his results are 1st and 2nds, essentially. So as a result, Dom Balasaitis is on the back foot. And those 2 points that he's lost out on are going to be 2 very big points come the end of the season.
Consistency is key. As long as you can just keep yourself in those high-scoring positions. If you're dropping a high score, it's not necessarily a bad thing because that proves how consistent you've been.
Yeah, precisely the case. Ethan Pritchard is making his way through turn 9. But where is Lewis Barton? He's lost about 4 seconds. So there is Lewis Barton making his way through turn 10 with Lee Schnitzler alongside him. But Ethan Pritchard has gained the position, and I have a feeling there was a bit of contact between them, or Lewis Barton just made a mistake. And well, I wasn't really watching them around the circuit. I thought we had a bit of time before the battle would kind of kick off. So, I mean, it could have happened into one of the boss stop chicanes, possibly. But I'm not, again, not entirely sure. And I don't want to speculate too much.
Yeah, because you don't want to put the blame on someone or do something that you don't exactly know.
Yeah. I haven't been informed of any penalties just yet. Don Balasaitis, though, still leading, still stretching his gap. He is now over 10 seconds at the front of the field. Let's see if we can spot where Luke Power and Matthew Glazebrook are in the battle at the front of the Sodi lightweight field. I'm going to be probably about still 3 or so seconds separating them. Yeah, so they're heading out of turn 5, and again, still, it's about 3 seconds separating the pair of them. Last time round, both Luke Power and Matthew Glazebrook doing 119.44s. Luke Power a 119.447, Matthew Glazebrook a 119.446.
So they are very close together in terms of lap time.
Absolutely, and kind of just trading lap times. I think Luke Power just knows that he needs to make no mistakes and just bring this one home. 12 minutes remaining, so we're kind of entering the point where it is now sprint race territory. And yeah, for Luke Power, it has been a really, really good showing for him. Neither Luke Power or Matthew Glazebrook. In fact, none of the top 5 in the championship, with the exception of Matthew Glazebrook, he's the only one who has won a round in the season, except for Adam Barrow. So Luke Power on for his first race win of the season currently. Oh, I love doing that. I love doing it.
I've had that before where I've literally said, oh, he's just doing it consistently. He just needs to keep bringing it home. And then you see someone spin out and you're just like, oh, well, I've just done that, haven't I? Murray Walker.
Oh, that is a spin on the exit of turn 10. So that is one of our Sodis. I'm going to assume just went on the brakes too hot. Yeah, locked up the rears and then just goes backwards into the grass. James Brown also on for his first win of the D-Max heavyweight season. Moving up from the, back when it was the N35 heavyweight category, where he almost would have won the championship, but this absolute idiot called Yousuf bin-Suhayl decided to join in for the final round of the season, which played a bit of a spoiler to the championship battle. And James Brown, I think, missed out on countback on tiebreaker. I think they were tied for points, and Barry Morris had more race wins. So he took the championship over James Brown. And James Brown... Yeah, I mean, I just figured, you know what, one time I had to show them, who was a real quickest driver in a 4-stroke.
I would, but there's just no power steering in me, so I can't steer one over about 5 degrees.
But yeah, James Brown, he's been having a really good season so far. Ultra consistent, constantly in the top 3. Again, 3 second place results, 1 third place, and now looking at his first race win of the season.
How long have we got left?
I think it's about 10 minutes remaining in the race, just over 10 minutes left. Gap at the front of the field, now 11 seconds. Don Balasaitis still setting low 108. Hasn't been able to break into the 107s, though.
Go on, lad, you can do it.
Luke Power has improved, a 108.18. But Matthew Glazebrook's fastest time, a 108.125. So Matthew Glazebrook still looking at taking the points for fastest lap, and a very, very important point as well to get. Because if he didn't get it, that would be essentially 2 points swinging the way of Luke Power, which again could be a big, big effect come the end of the season.
Very good point. Fastest lap points. I'm not going to say it doesn't mean much at all because it obviously does. But when you've got 50 points for a win and you've got 1 point for fastest lap, I think there's quite a discrepancy there.
So this is the issue that people have. They think, oh, 50 points for a race win, 1 point for a fastest lap. Don't think about it as 50 points for a race win. A race win is just 2 points over second place. So fastest lap is 50% of that. And actually, when you think about it, fastest lap, you're taking a point away. So getting a fast lap over your rival is the same thing as getting a race win over them.
That's fair enough. That's something I didn't consider. Obviously, there's been a couple of fastest lap anomalies there for history. I'm gonna
Was that for me?
History here. So in I think it was in 1954 or 55 Argentine Grand Prix, there were 7 drivers who got the same fastest lap.
So I do have a quick update. Lewis Barton apparently has a penalty for a dangerous re-entry. And I think that was at the bottom of the circuit. So that would have been whatever mistake, whether it was due to an incident with Ethan Pritchard or whether he made it himself. When he rejoined the track, apparently it was deemed as unsafe. So he will be having a position added come the end of the race, which means... Well, so the weird thing with this is he's currently in P7. At a position, he's in P8. But the driver in P8 is in the heavyweight class.
So is it position his class or is it position overall?
I believe it's position overall.
Okay. So he might lose a position in the results, but they might not lose anything in the actual championship.
Yes. Joseph Fletcher is the next highest lightweight, currently down in P12, having actually recently got past Ian Riley and Gareth Baldwin. And Ian Riley, Gareth Baldwin really struggling today, so not at their usual form. Ian Riley has been having a really good season, running third in the championship. He won the opening round of the season and then picked up a few 5th places, a few 4th place finishes, but today has just not been able to emulate that.
Matthew Glazebrook obviously won a couple of rounds, but now he's currently languishing down in, what is it, 2nd or 3rd place?
Second place.
Second place. Languishing down in 2nd place. I know it's blasphemous, but yeah, you can see family members egging their drivers on.
Yeah. I don't think Matthew's going to be too displeased with this result. Second place, fastest lap. He only drops 1 point. It's not the worst. With some of these rounds, sometimes you can be in 4th, 5th place.
What's the difference in the championship at the moment to 2nd place?
Oh, Matthew Glazebrook has got 7 points over Luke Power, and he's got a lot that he can gain from his drop score as well. So his drop score is 4 points worse than Luke Power. So effectively, instead of being 7 points ahead in the championship, he's 11 points ahead in the championship. After this round, he'll be 10. So still a comfortable championship margin, and just needs to continue to get top 3 results, and that will see him secure the lightweight championship. And
even if the driver behind him scores like 5 race wins and he was second, he'd still be in trouble.
Exactly. Again, you can only, if you come in second, maximum you can lose is 3 points per round. And I think there are 8 rounds in the championship, if I'm not mistaken, 8 or 7. So there is not a lot of time left for Luke Power, but for Luke, it's good to see him being able to finally beat Matthew Glazebrook, having that pace, and it might mean that we do have a championship battle from here to the end of the season, which would make things nice and entertaining for us in the commentary box.
Or maybe it's going to be a Sergio Perez moment where he has a title battle initially and then just loses off towards the end. But I'm not going to put that curse on him, obviously. Well, I just have, but I'm not going to put the curse on him.
I don't know. Did anyone really think that Sergio Perez was going to fight for the championship?
Because the car was obviously very suited towards him towards the early season of 2022, but then we just developed it towards Max. I think Sergio is a championship potential driver if he can get a number 2 teammate and a dominant car.
Now, we have a bit of a battle forming in the D-Max category. Barry Morris has Justin Elliott directly behind him. They're heading through turn 4 now, down the hill towards turn 5. Barry Morris in the white helmet and white and black suit, and Justin Elliott in the black suit, black helmet. Justin Elliott, another driver who's been having a decent season, picked up fast lap in round 3, has a drop score. So if you were to add, another 45 points or so to his tally, he would actually be sitting just behind Ian Riley in 4th, or in that battle for 2nd place with Ian Riley and Kuba Wozniak. And also, Kuba Wozniak is right on the back of James Brown heading through turn 4 as well. So we've got in the final, what is that? Final 5 minutes, 2 big battles going on. And one of them is for the D-Max heavyweight class win. And the other one is for, I believe, I'm just going to double check this so I don't get it wrong. It is for P4 in the heavyweight class.
Yeah, it's going to be entertaining to see how those battles develop and if we're going to see any on-track overtakes, we're going to see any on-track scuffles. Obviously, when the race comes to its end, you're going to be seeing drivers push their elbows out a little bit more, maybe not as much as you said before. They won't drive much differently, but they might go for a move that they wouldn't usually because it's the last lap, because it's the last 5 minutes. Obviously, you said earlier it's more of a sprint. Maybe it is.
Kuba Wozniak's ahead of James Brown. So Kuba Wozniak has made the move on James Brown out of our vision, essentially. So Kuba Wozniak is now leading in the heavyweight class. The question is, can James Brown fight back? So what's happened to James Brown that lap? He had a 1 minute 10.0, so he's dropped about a second on that lap.
Maybe he just locked it, not locked up, maybe he just made a mistake into one of the corners, went a bit wide. That can always lose you a bit of time, obviously.
Very possible. But here comes Barry Morris, still being hunted down by Justin Elliott. Last time round, Barry Morris a 109.6, Justin Elliott 109.6. There is very little between them, both in terms of their lap times and on circuit as they both go up the inside. Barry Morris overtaking his former Saudi heavyweight compatriot of Hamish Easoner through turn 1. And Justin Elliott making sure that there won't be any Saudis in between them as they head through the chicane of 2 and 3. Is this an opportunity for Elliott? Can't go up the inside because Barry Morris is going up the inside of Matthew Glazebrook, heading down now into turn 5.
Yeah, there is some close battling going on here, and there are some faster cuts going through as well, so we could see some controversy.
And look at that coming over the line. Luke Power has made a mistake because Matthew Glazebrook is just a few kart lengths behind him with less than 3 minutes on the clock. So the lightweight Saudi battle has really livened up in the final few minutes. And if Luke Power made a mistake and now sees Matthew Glazebrook directly behind him, that's when you start to get worried as a driver. That's when you start to feel the pressure starting to mount.
No pressure. That's easy to say, but we could see some interesting battles. Obviously, Matthew Glazebrook has the experience of winning, has the experience of doing well.
Here comes Barry Morris and Justin Elliott through turn 10, nose to tail as they head into the final corner. And I'm sure the drivers will be seeing the last lap board out relatively soon. Matthew Glazebrook, if he can pull off a win here, that would be a very good race win for him. Probably his best race win of the season. Through the chicane goes Morris and Elliott. No way through for Elliott into turn 4. And again, just a bit of patience needing to be set. Luke Power getting his head down on the back straight, trying to make himself a bit more streamlined. I never really know if that works. And Matthew Glazebrook, he can see his prize in front of him or just gets it a little bit out of sorts into the hairpin, can't get the rear end rotated, and as a result goes a bit wide. That's going to cost him about 2 to 3 tenths of a second.
Yeah, battle's still on though. You never know what can happen in these last laps. Drivers making mistakes, putting under pressure with these very, very small margins in the very later embers of his race.
Well, 119.6 by Luke Power. He's right back up to paces. Here comes Morris and Justin Elliott once more through turn 9 and down into turn 10. They have a Saudi in front of them that they are going to have to lap. Maybe into the final corner. Elliott too far back. This might come down to a last lap overtake between the pair of them. Less than 2 minutes to go then in the race. Not quite sure how long is left on the digiboard because there is usually a bit of a discrepancy. Elliott, I thought he was going to go up the inside into turn 4, but still he sits behind. Contact between Morris and Elliott, and now they're side by side heading into turn 5, and Morris is into the tyre barriers. Morris, I think, tries to squeeze Justin Elliott, and Justin Elliott had none of it, and he has pinged Barry Morris into the tyre barriers in his first round in the D-Max karts. Oh, dearie, dearie me, that was shaping up to be such a fantastic battle. I think this is going to be for the race stewards to have a look at. I think once he tried to squeeze Justin Elliott, he got a bit sideways, and then he just couldn't get the kart straightened up. The karts were just locked together, so he thought he was clear of... Well, something happened through turn 4 as well. I think there was a bit of contact on corner exit. Again, we'll leave it for the stewards to have a look at. Yeah, well, there are a few cameras around on circuit, so they can have a look back on it. But the checkered flag is out for Dom Balasaitis as he takes his first D-Max race win of the season, and a very, very good drive. Jamie Tyler Gooden will round the final corner to take the checkered flag and finish in second. Kuba Wozniak, James Brown, he's got up the inside of Kuba Wozniak through the final corner. It's got to be a drag to the line, but Wozniak manages it. Kuba Wozniak will take the race win and deny James Brown his first D-Max heavyweight race win of the season. What a drive from Wozniak. And here is Luke Power and Matthew Glazebrook. They're nose to tail in the battle for the race win in the Sodi category. Glazebrook's going to try to go up the inside. There is no space for him. And Luke Power will hold off Matthew Glazebrook to take his first Sodi lightweight class win ahead of Matthew Glazebrook, who I think will be thinking that on those final few laps, he could have done it.
With the same train of thought, he could have done better in those opening laps and just maybe got a bit closer, then maybe he'd have been closer at race end.
Yeah, I think the issue for Matthew Glazebrook is he was just on the outside into turn one, dropped down to third place and took a bit of time to get past Adam Green, but fantastic final few minutes here at Daytona Milton Keynes for round number 5 of the Super Championship. Well, 40 minutes, practically game down to the final 4 seconds. Dom Balasaitis takes the win over Jamie Tyler Gooden and James Pedersen. Kuba Wozniak and James Brown are your top 2 in the D-Max heavyweight class. Ethan Pritchard comes home in 4th in class ahead of Lewis Barton. Lee Schnitzler takes P3 in the heavyweight class ahead of Justin Elliott. Then comes Joseph Fletcher, Sebastian Musica, Ian Riley, Gareth Baldwin, and Barry Morris. A stricken Barry Morris at the end. He's going to be absolutely gutted with that. And then Ashley Mason-King rounds out the D-Max class. Luke Power then wins in the Sodis ahead of Matthew Glazebrook and Adam Green. Your top 3 all lightweight drivers. Charlie Fenton wins in the heavyweight class. Harry Asher and Billy Moore, followed by Alexei Ivanov. Aidan Miller taking, I believe, 2nd in the heavyweight class. Then comes Hamish Eisner, Jake Ginger, Jay Venadi, and Harry Thrower complete the Sodi field. So with that, we're going to be signing out of the comms, and we're going to be seeing everyone up in the pavilion for presentations shortly.
Fun times.
And to those people who are tuning in on the YouTube chat, thank you very much for stopping by. And I'll see you all for the next round of the championship, round 6, which I believe is next weekend, if I'm not mistaken, or the weekend after. Either way, I'll see you all then.